that day. If anything, in Zata camp could be called normal. After all, Baba had gone for a while, so we were used to his absence. Fuad went back to school, and I went to Abu Radwan's shop, though there was less and less for me to do. Mum barely left the caravan, as if she was afraid that Bilal would snatch her away the minute she showed her face outside. Ma seemed frozen in misery. Musa spent most of the time that he had on the laptop, leaving me to do all the fetching and carrying. Who's going to charge that thing for you when I've finally lost my job? I said nastily to him, resenting the fact that I'd had to bring Fuad to school when you are doing nothing anyway. Musa didn't lift his eyes from the screen. You'll find out. Later that day, he clapped his hands in the air and whooped triumphantly. Gotcha. What? Got who? I said. He didn't answer. None of us noticed how quiet Nadia had become. She no longer bounced on the mattress or tried to catch bits of fluff floating in the air. She lay still, sucking her thumb. What a good girl, Ma would say, stroking her head as she passed. No trouble to anyone. The thought that Bilal might turn up any moment obsessed me. Hundreds of people were still pouring into the camp from Syria every day. There were mostly women and children, but there were men too, and I scanned everyone's face. Once or twice I thought I saw Mr. Nosey's long, ratty nose and close-set eyes, but it was always a false alarm. And then, one day, it wasn't. I was on my way back from Champolis, worrying, churning round in my head as usual. How would we manage about the money for my job? How could I find another one? Were we doomed to live in the camp forever? Suddenly, a hand gripped my elbow, painfully hard. I spun round. Hello, Omar. Bilal's wide eyes smiled and showed his uneven teeth. On your way home, are you? I'll come with you. No, I stammered. I'm fetching bread from the distribution centre. I've only been here a couple of days, said Bilal, but aren't you going the wrong direction? Never mind. I know where the caravan is. I couldn't hide my dismay. How did you find out? Oh, that was easy. He was walking on fast, and I had trouble keeping up with him. You only have to ask around here. A big village, isn't it? Not really. He ignored that. I was sorry to hear about your father. We understand each other so well, and now we're brothers. Your sister is she well? I suppose. We never expected to hold a wedding in a refugee camp, did we? He laughed. But we'll manage. This way, isn't it? Don't worry, I can find it. Your mother needs the bread, I'm sure. I'll get it later, I said hastily, trying desperately to think of a way to head him off. But we were almost at the back of the cabin, and there was nothing I could do. To my surprise, Musa looked almost pleased to see Bilal. He came out of the cabin to greet him, then sent Fuad back inside to fetch the 2 little stools that Ma and Amal used when they were preparing food. He's here, I heard Fuad say, as he bounced back into the cabin. I mean Bilal. There was a horrified gasp from Amal and a pleased one from Ma, who appeared at the door a moment later, a rare smile on her face. They talked for a moment or two, but I didn't listen. I was too busy watching Musa. He was standing as tall as he could, and there was an expression on his face that I'd never seen before, a serious, heavy look. He looked like Baba, I thought, surprised. He's grown up. I'll get coffee, Ma said, at last, hurrying back inside. Musa waited till she'd gone and pointed to one of the stools. Musa sat down and Bilal sat opposite him, a patronising and contemptuous look on his face. Your father and I sorted everything out, he said, bossily, looking over at Musa's head. I'm going to fix the wedding for next. You are not going to marry my sister. Musa spoke loudly and clearly so that Bilal could understand, but even so, for a moment I thought I must have misheard. I hadn't, and felt a shock of joy. Bilal stared with surprise, then smiled at Musa pitifully. My dear boy, I'm not your dear boy. Musa's voice was harsh and grating. This is ridiculous. You have no right. Musa turned to me. Omar, fetch my laptop. I'd never seen Musa like this, so sharp and commanding. I obeyed automatically. Iman was standing behind the caravan door, her face tight with anxiety. Ma had heard nothing. She was fetching the coffee. Things in her little kitchen area at the back of the caravan. I grabbed the laptop and hurried out again. Your full name, it's Bilal Mahir, isn't it? Musa was saying. You know it is, Bilal was getting angry. And you lived in Juma, near Damascus, 6 years ago? You were working in a bicycle store? Look here, what is this all about? Blustered Bilal. Musa took the laptop from me and flicked open the lid. I've downloaded the bit we need to look at. He was fast. He was speaking too fast, but Bilal seemed to have no difficulty understanding him. He was shifting his weight awkwardly on his stool. The crime is detailed right here. Musa jabbed a finger at the screen. Rape. A nasty case. You nearly killed the poor girl. I saw a flash of panic in Bilal's eyes, but he quickly controlled it. This is ridiculous. There must be hundreds of people called Bilal Mahir. How dare you? It is you. Musa was scrolling down the screen. There's a photograph of you. Look, it's quite clear. Bilal jumped to his feet, knocking over the stool. Behind the door, I heard a muffled shriek of delight from Iman. Ma appeared with a little tray of coffee and a glass in her hand. We won't need that, Ma, Musa said, struggling to his feet. This man, he has to go. What? But the wedding. You can't have fixed it already, said Ma, looking bewildered. Bilal was stepping away from us. It's a lie. Blackmail. There was never. I didn't. I wonder why a man of your wealth had never found a wife, Musa said coldly. After all, who would give their daughter to a rapist? Ma gave a little scream and dropped the tray. The tiny glass shattered on the ground and black coffee splashed up her robe. Bilal advanced on Musa with threatening fist held up. You can't do this, you pathetic little cripple. I gave you your sister a fortune in dowry. That necklace? The door of the caravan was wrenched open. A flash of gold flew through the air and landed at Bilal's feet. Take your necklace, Iman shouted, and slammed the caravan door behind her. Bilal was red in the face and breathing heavily now. He took another step towards Musa. Behind him, a little crowd had gathered, attached by the raised voices. A few of the hooligans were watching, ready to protect Musa. It's all right, boys, I called across to them. This guy's on his way. But Bilal wasn't finished. He lunged his fist and struck. I jumped in front of Musa and took the punch in my stomach. I doubled over, winded. It's all right, Omar, we've got him, I heard the tigers shout, and I gasped for breath. What do you want us to do with him? Get him out of here, Musa said, turning to the back of the caravan, and make sure he doesn't show his face around here again. I still couldn't breathe properly, but I looked up to see Bilal bend down to try and scoop the necklace off the ground. Before he could reach it, the hooligans had dragged him away. He looked at me with poison in his eyes, but he was beaten and we both knew it. Lion picked up the necklace and handed it with a flourish to Musa. Here you go, boss, he said, and scampered away. Boss, is it now? I thought. Who does Musa think he is? It's all very well driving him off like that, Ma said later, as we sat around our evening meal. But I can't believe Bilal ever did such a terrible thing. It's impossible. And say what you like, he was generous. He had looked after us all. Iman flushed. I'd never have married him. Never. I was planning to throw his necklace in his face if it came to an actual wedding. Ma looked shocked. Wherever did you get such an idea from? What a scandal. You'd have brought the whole family down on you. Would you rather I married a rapist? Iman said passionately. I knew he was evil the moment I saw him. Ma hadn't finished. She turned to Musa. How did you find all that out anyway? You can't be sure that person was him. Perhaps. It was him, Musa said with a frown. Let it go, Ma. We won't talk about that disgusting man any more. All through her life, Ma had obeyed the men of her family without complaint. First her father, then her husband. And now Musa was taking on that role. I could see a struggle in Ma's face as she heard the new authority in his voice. I waited for her to say something, but Musa spoke first. Imam, make some tea for Ma. She had a shock. We're on our own, Ma, and we'll manage on our own. We won't be in the camp forever. We'll find a way to get out. I know we will. Ma's mouth fell open, then shut again. At that moment, I had a blinding revelation. Musa had really been Ma's favourite son. He'd been her baby. She hadn't noticed that he didn't need her fussing over him any longer. I could almost watch the revolution happening in my head. One was happening in mine too. I suddenly realised that I didn't have to be jealous of Musa anymore. And that, Year 6, is the end of chapter 20. It's not the end of chapter 20, actually, it's the end of chapter 19. We are going to read chapter 20 next week. It was a long chapter, guys, but I hope you've enjoyed it. There are a few chapters left. So let me have a look. There are 2 chapters left. I might read both chapters next week, as it is our very last week of reading Welcome to Nowhere before we move on. So I hope you've enjoyed it, Year 6. Have a fantastic week, and I will speak to you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.